we're going to look at methods that return values. So we're going to play with parameters a little bit and then having the method return a value. So we're going to use a class called Rectangle2, since we already did a rectangle earlier. It says A, write a method that accepts a rectangle's length and width doubles as parameters and returns the area. And then B, write another method with 3 parameters to output the results as follows. A rectangle with sides blank and blank has an area of blank. Okay, so I want to kind of treat this as if it's a bigger problem. So, you know, these are not very complex things. The area of a rectangle is length times width. We wouldn't really need a method to calculate that, but I wanted to use methods so that we can illustrate the process. Okay, so keep that in mind as you go through, that I'm not using, we're gonna have methods with like 1 line of code. So normally we wouldn't do that. But the idea here is to sort of use methods in a way that helps us learn how the passing of parameters and the returning of values is working. So I just want to go on paper for a minute and look at sort of, you know, the design, the problem. So I think we understand the problem. Let's jump onto Eclipse and go ahead and create the class and do the comment that talks about what the program does. So go into chapter 3, make a new class, default package, Rectangle2, public static void main, finish. I just sent an announcement about, you know, coding in the video, so it is expected that you will do this coding along with the video, or before or after. At some point you need to do this coding. It helps us get the experience. Ideally, you have sort of 2 windows open and you can just code in one and watch the video in the other. Maybe I can make myself a little smaller here. So I'm just gonna, I just have the class and all I want to do is put the comments in initially. So and what that is doing for me is do I understand the problem? Have I analyzed the problem? So here the problem says, write a method that accepts a rectangle's length and width and returns its area. So this program will contain a method that accepts a rectangle's length and width as parameters and returns its area. And I'll go ahead and read B here. Write another method with 3 parameters to output the results. I'll just put comma and then a second method to output the results. And you know, when I give you a format of results, we want to make sure that your results match this. So everything except the quotes, and those blanks will be filled in with those numbers. Okay, so in Eclipse, that illustrates that we have analyzed the problem. The fact that I can describe what we're doing. So now I'm going to close that down. If you want to pause, go ahead and pause. I'm going to come over here and think about this on paper. So if I'm going to write a method that accepts, again, I would have you writing this on paper. So you'd write the problem down and then you'll copy down what I'm writing as well. If I'm going to write a method that accepts the length and the width as parameters, so in our process of coding, you know, we've done, I'm just going to remind us what these steps are. We analyzed the problem. And now we're looking a little bit at the specifications and the design. at the same time, and then we're going to code it. So in the specs, we have length and width, and then the area is found by taking length times width, and we know that. I'm just writing it down. But when I go to my design, so when I have this length and width to begin with, I can't find the area until I know what they are. So in my code, I'm going to initialize the length and the width. In a minute, maybe we'll get those from the user, but for now, we're just going to initialize them to some values. Let's say it's 10 by 7. Once we have them 10 by 7, I would need to calculate the area. So I'm going to have a method called CalculateArea, and I'm going to send it the length and the width as input. And then whenever we have a method that we're calling, there's two things we have to ask. Is there any input? Yes, the input are the parameters, in this case, length and width. And is there any output? Does it return anything? And if the answer is yes, then we need to save that return value in something. So here we're going to save that return value in a variable called area. So if we have this return, we need to make this assignment. If I want to save the value, I don't have to make an assignment. But if I don't, then I won't have any idea what that, I won't end up saving the thing. So that's part A, is that method. And then part B says, okay, I need another method that calculates the results. So does the calculate result, or sorry, does the output results, let's call it output results, does it have parameters? Yes, because it needs to know the length, the width, and the area. And then does it return any value? So this is the input again. We always want to ask, does our function have input? And does our function have output? Meaning, does it return anything? So, this output results, it's going to have output, but it's going to be printing it to the screen. So does it return anything? No. So this guy really doesn't need to be indented. It should be back here. So while that looks a little bit funky, just because I didn't use enough space, the specifications are up top. We have length and width, and we're going to let them be 10 and 7. I have to initialize them, and then I'll have a function that I send them to called CalculateArea. It will return the area. And then I have another function called output results that will just print the results along with the input value. So a rectangle with sides 10 and 7 has an area of 70. I think I'll leave the units out just because we could put meters or centimeters if we wanted, and then the area would be in square centimeters, but I'm not going to. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to Eclipse. And now we'll implement this code just so we remember. And I write that down. Step 4 is to implement what happened? Sorry, I'll just put it up here. I can do that. 4, implement. That's the coding. 5 is to test and debug. And 6, improve and maintain. Okay. I'm going to switch over to Eclipse. I just want to keep this code here in case I need the pseudocode to come back to. So this design here, this is pseudocode if I needed it. I don't think I'm going to, but. So we'll just shrink that down for now. Jump over to Eclipse. Okay, so the first thing that I said we needed to do is initialize those length and width, so they're doubles. So the length was 10, the width was 7. And it doesn't like that. I thought I could sneak by and do this on one line, but it allows you to declare them both on one line. But let's go ahead and declare them separately and assign them. Double width length is 10, double width equals 7. And then I'm going to call the function CalculateArea. I'm going to send it the length and the width as parameters. These would be my actual parameters. And then we asked in the beginning, does it return something? Well, it does. It returns the area. So we need to, if we want to keep that area, we need to save it somewhere. And you'll notice there's a mistake, 2 errors here. One that I haven't defined CalcArea yet, and another that I haven't declared the type of this area. I haven't initialized area itself. So I can do that 2 ways. I can come up here and say double area. That takes care of that error. And then the other error is coming from the fact that I haven't declared this function yet. This is a little bit redundant. It's probably a little easier just to declare it here, double area in the assignment. Just like I did up here, double width equals 7, double area equals whatever gets returned from CalcArea. Okay, then we'll come down and we'll define public static. So now it's not void. Now it's returning a double. So this void is when it's not returning anything. When it is returning something, we want to indicate what type of value is being returned. We're going to return that area length times width, so we're going to make it a double. And it's CalculateArea is the name. And then it has 2 parameters. They're both doubles. Double length, double width. Brace, return. Okay. Something doesn't like it. Let's see what it is. Oh, right. So this method is expecting to return a double. We haven't returned anything. So we can write here return. What you can do is just return 0.0 for now. That's sort of a default double. I could also just return 0, but you know, if I somehow do, so this will be okay, but if my type was integer and I hit 0.0, then it would give me an error. So for double, it might be make more sense to return 0.0. Okay, so what this does is show us that the overall flow is working, and now we just need to do this program. And in this program, we could actually, I don't really want to use length and width here. Let's just use L, capital L maybe, and capital W, just to indicate that they're different. I mean, I don't have to, but these variables L and W are different from those length and width back there. And if I were to change L and W in CalcArea, say I were to say L equals 10 or 12, and then I went back here and printed length would still be 10, even though I had changed it to 12 in the function. Because the capital L and capital W just live inside this method, CalcArea. So I could have another variable called area here that is the length times the width, or I could just return length times width. So notice, you know, this function, CalcArea, there's nothing really here. So, I mean, I could just as easily have had, instead of calling CalcArea, just put area equals length times width. And I realize that, but I'm wanting to show you that the establishment of the method itself and the returning value. So maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should go ahead and do the coding, which would be, we have a double called A, or area, and it's going to equal length times width. And then what we're returning is that A. I also realized neither of my values are doubles. They're both integers. So let's make the width 7.5. And that way, you know, we're checking that our methods are still working with doubles as opposed to just working with integers. Okay, so this guy, hopefully it works. we won't know, if I run it, I won't know if anything happened. I know there's no errors because it runs, but there's also no output. So there's nothing to check. So what I could do here is just print SYSO control space to automatically fill that in, and then let's just print that area out. And it should be 75. There it is, or 75.0, it's a double. Perfect. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, well, one thing we could do is we could put in some conditions on this method, the pre and post conditions. I'll come back and do that after. Let's finish part B, which is a second method to output the results. So this print statement was to test. Again, I probably don't need a method here because it's just a single print statement, but I want to use a method to illustrate the passing of the parameters. So I'm going to have a method called output results, and I'm going to pass 3 parameters, the length, width, and the area, so that I can not only tell you what the area is, but tell you what that area is corresponding to which length and width. Okay, and we have an error because we haven't defined it yet, so I go after this double CalculateArea function, public, static. Remember, the output results has 3 input parameters, but it's not returning anything, so it's going to be type void. Output results. You could use the word print, but I like output. Okay, so these are all doubles. So we're going to go double length. And again, now I'm going to use these short letters, double W. I could use the full name. I could use lowercase. It doesn't matter. Double area. What is nice about switching the values, the letters, is you can kind of build a structure where downstairs, let's say in main is downstairs, and these will be upstairs. That's coming from, and when I used to, another style of code is to put all the methods above main and put main last. So then everything, main is downstairs and everything else is upstairs. Or functions that get called by other functions, those are upstairs, and the calling function is downstairs. So that's what I mean when I say downstairs, I'm talking about main, and upstairs, I'm talking about methods that main is calling. So downstairs, we're using the words length, width, and area, and upstairs, we're using the letters capital L, capital W, and capital A. So it kind of creates a distinction between, if there's an error with a variable, I'm going to kind of know where that error is. Okay, so we're going to output these results, and I think we just need to have a print statement. That says the area of a rectangle with sides, so space, we're going to add, let's see, I think I can just hit return. Let's see. Actually, let's just make this a print statement. And then the next thing will print right after it. I'll do another print statement. I'll start with length. I'll add to that length space and space plus width, and then plus quote is. I need spaces before and after the is, and then add in the area. And then I'll add into that a period, and let's just do a \n, so I don't have to change it to a print line. I'll just leave it as a print. It doesn't like this length or width or area because I didn't use those words. Notice errors. So instead, I need to use length, capital L, width, capital W, and A, capital A. Call the function. The area of a rectangle with sides 10.0 and 7.5 is 75.0. Excellent. I think I have the whole code there. Oh, I have everything but the comments here, so maybe I can make it a little bigger. So you can see everything. Maybe I'll take this white space out there. I like to leave a white space there between my methods and maybe between the comments. So there's my comments. Maybe we double check. This program will contain a method that accepts a right length and width as parameter and returns its area. Yep. And then a second method to output the results. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to come back and overload both these functions, CalcArea and output results, to do the same thing but with a square. So a square is a form of rectangle. It's a rectangle where the length and the width are equal. So, or another way of saying it is it has 4 equal sides. But in regards to what we're doing here, because I'm calculating an area with length, a rectangle with length and width, we can do the same thing for a square with the length and the width both equaling the side. So I will declare new functions, CalcArea and output results, that do that, overloading these same methods. So, but I'll do that in a separate recording.